Good morning, everybody. Mestre Sukuri coming to you from Tokyo, Japan, episode 62, Mestre Vibes. Guys, today I came in a little bit early and I really had a great time writing up today's podcast. Got my notes together and I'm going to jump right into it. I'm only a couple weeks before I go to the United States, so I thought this would be something that would be really fun to talk about. Today's topic: what are all the things that a mestre has to do, or some of the things that a mestre has to keep in mind, or a mestra, behind the scenes, things that the students and other people don't think about, things that happen when you become a mestre that you have to keep in mind or that you're responsible for, but other people might not think about it. So let's jump right into it today and let's get into what are the things that I have to think about as a Mestre of Capoeira that other people might not know. So I hope this finds you guys and helps you think about, how much people put into teaching Capoeira or other things, and maybe help you guys a little bit more understand and appreciate, not in a bad way, but in a good way. Okay, first, when you're a mestre, you are the one. Your first goal as a mestre of Capoeira is to make your job as the leading mestre obsolete. For example, one thing I'm always trying to do is people say, oh, Mestre Sukuri, you're the leader of Zuador. Mestre Sukuri, you're the go-to. Mestre Sukuri, you're the person we have to check things with. Actually, my goal in my group is to become obsolete. For example, building other people in the group or in my community to be able to do what I do and potentially do it better than me. This is very challenging, but this is part of the world. And to build people, you need to have something worthwhile for them to build. And today, on my last point in this podcast today, you're going to see how I bring it all together. So stay tuned till the end. It's going to be a great one. I don't want to be the one that everyone refers to. Oh, Mestre Sukuri said this. Mestre Sukuri does this. Mestre Sukuri believes this. What I want is to build people to be able to take their own confidence and experience and say, for example, I've gone through the process too when I first started teaching, and I said, well, my mestre used to do this, or this mestre showed me this, or this was that. Unless I'm directly quoting somebody, I feel it's really important for people to build people to be able to have confidence in their own experience and knowledge. Because once they've absorbed the knowledge, then it is no longer Mestre Sukuri, but for example, Mestre Linguiça can say, oh, Mestre Sukuri does this. Don't say that, but say, I believe this, or I see this, in my experience this, I've seen this. And you start to build your own confidence and your own way to become independent. And if I don't build people to become independent, or better yet, make it that I don't even need to be the mestre, I would rather be one of the mestres or one of the people in my group helping to take the group forward, or what I like to better call a community, a capoeira community. I'd like to take it forward. And part of that is so that I guess it's kind of like a business practice that I learned when I was doing graduate school. A CEO's and a mestre is very similar in some ways. And I think I got a lot of these ideas from that education, from the MBA program of learning about business. I need to get rid of my position. For example, successfully becoming the mestre I want to do would be when I don't have to do anything anymore, if that makes sense. If I can build people to teach, if I can build people to grow, if I can create enough stability in myself as a professional mestre of Capoeira, then I actually don't need to do anything. And it's not like a pyramid scheme or anything, but like just building the life where I can step aside and let other people do. So in business school, we had a thing said, a CEO's first job is to fire himself, which means to find people who can do your job better so that you can do more and do other things. And although I'm not there, I'm very clear on this is where I need to go. It doesn't mean quit capoeira. It means How fantastic would it be if I could just be free to do whatever I want, to travel when I want, to move around when I want, there's a workshop in Germany that just opened up. Oh, I can go. It's not so easy if I have to be the full-time teacher here. So developing people to help, to support, to grow, and to do things with me is something that's very important. So the ability to get rid of my job. Second, when you're a Mestre of Capoeira, it's funny, in a way, you kind of have to be an amateur psychologist. And I'm not taking away anything from psychology. It's a very professional and trained, but I've noticed that people want to talk with you, and a lot of times people will ask you to solve their problems for them without saying that. So one of the biggest skills that a master has that they have to learn to deal with is how to be kind of an amateur psychologist, how to handle people, how to handle group dynamics, social situations. For me, being an amateur psychologist also plays directly into how I deal with creating events, what will attract people, what will bring people. How can I can negotiate for shows, for everything I do. There's a psychological aspect when you're dealing with people. And not just that, but people look up to you for words of wisdom, for words of experience, for words of consolation, words of support. And you have to do that from a very self-aware level. And I think that's very important that people understand that as a Mestre of Capoeira, sometimes you really have to be kind of like an amateur psychologist. Next, you have to have as a master, one of the big things that you'll have is you'll have your own to-do list. Like, I have a list of so many things that I have to do regularly, like day to day, week to week, month to month, and year to year. Like, easy way would be regularly cleaning the academia, day to day, week to week, planning my schedule, month to month, planning events, and then year to year, planning the batizado and where I'm going to take my group forward. And these are things that I'm constantly having to have on my to-do list. How can I improve it? And when I have to change my list and update it. One of the things on your to-do list, for example, can be who and how to build capoeiras. As I've mentioned, we have clients, students, and disciples. And you have to be able to provide a good service or a good mentorship role to all three different at the same time. To do that, for me, sometimes I literally have to spend an afternoon at a coffee shop or playing music, thinking and processing, how do I build capoeiras? And who, right? Although I've talked about, like, you've got to give everybody the best service possible, you do have to separate who's deserving of disciple or disciple attention, who's deserving of a good student attention, and of course, give the attention that's necessary for your clients. So there's always this to-do list. And honestly, I'll sit there and I'll think to myself, okay, this person, I need to do this. This person, I need to do this. And these are things that you do outside of the class. And speaking of outside of the class, there's so many things on my to-do list that are outside of class, like outside of the regular classes I teach. Events. I always think, right, if an event is really good, if people really love it and they feel that it was self-running or effortless, then you really put a lot of work into that. I've never seen an event that if you don't put the good work of organization into it before it starts, then you'll have problems. I'm gonna toot my own horn here. The last kids event went by so smooth. Our kids batizado, that parents came up to me and said that was the best event. And I'm talking about parents whose big brothers or big sisters of the kids now were in capoeira years ago. And they said, this was the best event so far. And I listened to that. And that's really important because it not only validates what I'm doing, it's customer input. Customers are telling me this is what they like and this is what I do. Yeah. So all those extra hours of putting into events so that they run smooth. Anything else you do, like mentorship. For me, publish books. I'm working on my new book. Create. Anything I create, even a 30-second Instagram video takes time to put together. Since my son's been doing YouTube, I always bring this up because about social media. And he puts a lot of work into it. He really does. Per hour, per minute, he doesn't make what he should be making if he was working. He'd probably make more money working at McDonald's. But he's got a passion for it, and he's learning, and he's moving, and he's building. Doing everything else, like I said, mentorship, publishing, creating, anything I do artistically or I do for my community. For example, every year we do the haunted house. That takes 30 to 40 hours to prepare. That is a lot of time outside of the capoeira classes, things that aren't paid for by the capoeira classes. Things like charity. I know a lot of mestres are, not a lot, but myself, I'm involved with charity, and all those things take time to do. It's not stuff that happens automatically. You have to go out there. You have to get involved. We're going to be involved with Smile Train Madagascar this year. I got to contact, email, prep. How do I transfer funds to their charity? Get the response. There's all these things that are involved in just one simple part of what a mestre or what I have to do. So these things are the behind the scenes a lot of people don't know about. Maintaining the academia, that is such a big thing. Let's say there's 3 things that you really need to do as a mestre that people don't see. 1, maintain your academia, maintain your vision, and maintain people relationships or maintaining your community. Maintaining your academia is understanding that it is a business. So you're constantly chasing ways. For example, if you look at it simply, if you're a small, medium, or big company, you're always chasing new sources or new clients. How to bring income into the business. The lights, the rent, the paper towels, the refurbishing of the drums, the beating bows, the panderos, everything I have here. The printing of the music lyrics on the wall, the lights, the light bulbs, the wallpaper, the fans, everything takes money to maintain. People sometimes go, I'm paying for mestre's time, but you're actually paying for maintenance of everything I do. That's why we're constantly chasing after new events, trying to do things online. Even at my age, I'm trying to do things online, learning how to do more. If you're in a place like the United States or like England or in a country that has this, I know people who are constantly chasing grants. A couple of my friends in America are doing good capoeira masters, but they're constantly chasing grants because they need that as a type of income. I mean, seriously, anything. Look what I'm doing here. I'm always trying to get new Patreon people. Why? Because that directly affects my income and how I grow my community. We really learned as mestres and masters how hard it is to maintain something as special and as unique as capoeira. There's all these different ways, and we have to find constantly new ways because maybe the show that you get every year stopped, or maybe the grant you get every year stopped, or maybe the agent that called you for shows changed and they don't call you anymore. Maybe there's no interest in calling you. Maybe the show team you had no longer exists. So you're constantly having to restructure and reinvent and repackage everything you do to maintain your academia. All the process of maintaining your academia, cleaning the bathroom. Guys, Just in the last month, I've cleaned the bathroom every day because it's so hot. And I mean, no one does it for me. We got to do it. And this is some things that a lot of times people don't see. They come in and it's like, oh, the restroom was magically cleaned. Oh, the paper in the dispenser was magically put there. Oh, there's always been drums and panderos and beating bells for the students to use. No, those are all things that we had to get, or I had to get to create, to maintain my academia, or at least how I see it. People might have different views and you can do what you do. But for me, the way I do it that has helped me to grow is this way. Vision. Guys, vision. You need to believe in your dream and goals. Clear vision of where you are going. What works for you? And be able to communicate this to others. A lot of times I've seen in the capoeira world, people will look at other people and think it's going to work exactly the same for them in their situation. What might work for a mestre in Brazil might not work for a mestre in the United States. That might not work for me in Japan. So we're constantly having to understand and have the self-reflection to see, okay, this isn't working, this is working. How can I focus on what works for me? What is the vision that will take me forward and my capoeira community? And how do I clearly communicate it? In business, if you cannot communicate clearly in one or two sentences what you do in your business, then your business is destined to fail. You won't be able to grow it. You've got to be able to communicate. If someone said, Mestre Sucuri, what is your goal for your capoeira group? And I always say, my goal is not to be the biggest, not to be the best, but to be the coolest. To make every person who's involved in what I do have the most fulfilling and enriching experience they can have in capoeira. Period. Third part that you really need to focus on are the people, the community. You need to focus on choosing the best people to invest your time and resources in. Don't just settle for anyone. Growing up in capoeira, I've seen so many people and groups that because generally capoeira was taught to, like, for example, in Brazil, you hear a lot of stories, and I had experiences where, like, oh, this person turned out to be a bad egg because of their background. But then why did you keep the egg long enough to let it spoil? People feel like they have to bend over backwards to keep everyone in the group, to keep everyone in their community, everyone with them to move forward. Guys, that just doesn't how it works. And again, at the end, you're going to understand why this is such a challenging situation in capoeira. Don't settle just for anyone. Pick the people who see your vision, who want to move forward with your vision. When I first came to Japan, I got caught up in that whole grow your capoeira team, big fest. We had Capoeira Hokkaido, we had Thailand back in the day. They were popping up everywhere. I wasn't ready to lead, and I took anyone. Most of the fault, I take responsibility because I know I wasn't ready to lead. But at the same time, I took everybody. I took everybody who wanted to be a part of Zoador or be next to me, and without checking them. When actually, I'm the gatekeeper to let people come in and be a part of what I believe in, what I'm taking forward. But when you don't have a gate and anyone comes in, then you're going to get all types of people coming in. And most of the time, because of that, there's a high probability, in my opinion, you're going to get a lot of bad people, a lot of toxic people. And you could say, well, people do things differently. Yes. But for me, as a master, you have to go, okay, this is my vision. This is my community. This is how I want to take it forward. These are the type of people I consider good for my growth, for my vision, for my group, for my community. These aren't. And you got to get rid of those toxic people because they're only going to give you extra work all the time. You got to have quality people versus quantity of people, right? Good people around you will make your journey so much easier and so much streamlined and move forward in a much more progressive and positive way. So that makes us think, okay, so let me share with you guys what I think is a good person to help you or to help me. Someone who shares your vision, but also can make choices on their own. And I guess the best thing to say is this is a disciple, right? Or a student. A person who says, okay, I like the way you're moving forward. In my case, I like the way Zoador does things. I like the way Master Shukuri does things. I want to follow in that path, but you need to get people who are not going to follow blindly, but also make choices on their own. One of the easiest ways to do it is to say, okay, I'm going to start teaching under Capoeira Zoador, and I'm going to support my mestre as best I can in my way. And this is what I'm going to do to be not only person sharing the vision with my mastery and my community, but how I can contribute. I can make choices. My mastery gives me the confidence and the freedom to make choices in the group. So I am part of this group. And every time I make a choice that benefits the group, I can take pride that I am more and more part of this group, or more and more part of not the ownership, but the close-knit inner circle that I've been a part of, because you have to contribute. A good person will contribute to the group. Who knows? That person might be the person who takes over in the future. You have to build the next generation of people and give them the confidence and freedom to make choices. My biggest problem is I came in from that generation where a mastery rules with an iron fist, where you micromanage. And I micromanaged too long. And now that I'm trying to give people more flexibility and input, sometimes it's hard because people either don't want to because they're clients, don't have the confidence because they're students, or that rare disciple who are like, okay, I will take it up. For example, one thing I'm very blessed is contra Mestre Jacaré on the next batizado. He was literally like, I want to do this. I saw this, Mestre. What do you think about this idea? I want to do this for the workshop at the batizado. I'm like, fantastic. I'm glad. People don't come up. They wait for you to make the decisions, to tell them what to do. That's fine. Again, a contra mestre de casa, semi-pro and pro. A pro is going to be involved. A semi-pro is going to give their opinion and be involved. And a house, they're just happy to be a part of it and will do everything to support you. So I'm very blessed, and a big shout out to Contra Mestre Jacaré for always taking the initiative. Guys, there's no such thing as a stupid idea. There's only, is it possible or is it not possible? But that only comes out to know if we discuss it, if we sit down, and if we communicate. Next, if you don't deal with good people, you will only have headaches. You've got to get rid of the toxic people. So many times the person I like doesn't necessarily equate or fit the kind of person I need or have the ability to follow me on the path of capoeira. I've realized in my life you can't change people. Capoeira has so many internal problems that it feels more like high school gossip and drama versus let's grow capoeira in a positive way. Some of the stuff I hear people complaining about in capoeira is like, wow, you have that because you allowed that to happen. You have that because you allowed as a leader those toxic people. You allow, and then comes the excuse, well, it is like this. No, it's the way you make it. The hardest thing about being a mestre behind the scenes is you have to have integrity in what you believe and how you want things done. People can come, people can go. The door opens in and the door opens out. But you have to have integrity to stand by. Like, for example, one of the biggest things that always affected me when I was doing capoeira in Brazil or other groups is it was so common for people to date within the group. Now, there's two kinds of dating. One is dating with intent and keeping it under wraps and doing, possibly like my group, I've had like maybe 7 or 8 couples that got married that some of their kids do capoeira. Those are people who are down to earth and not just messing around. Because if you mess around, eventually people are going to get on one or the other side. Some people quit, and that affects my business, my livelihood, the way I pay for my wife, my kids, education, food, life. So understanding that if you're willing to deal with people or let things go, to a certain point, you have to step in and say, hey, look, this is my community. It's like, I guess in a way is like, you're going to let, people say, oh, the customer comes in. But this customer always drops food or is really messy. And then somebody has to spend an hour cleaning up after them. If they come in once a week, after a year, that's 52 hours extra. You paid somebody to clean that one person's mess. I hope that makes sense. The more time you spend on people who are not helping you grow or not being good clients, then it's time and energy that you're going to have to waste on cleaning up their mess or putting Band-Aids on the situation. If someone is openly dating different people and causing problems and jealousy and confusion, then you're basically just putting Band-Aids on it or ignoring the festering wound. You need to be able to recognize the good people and the toxic people and be able to have the integrity to know that these toxic people are not going to be a part of it. Like we always say in Portuguese, bom trabalho. Bom trabalho just means doing a good job. And if we don't think about this in a professional way, it's going to be very hard to grow. And I can't speak for other mestres or other people, but from my experience, this is what it looks like to me. If you don't run it like a professional organization, you can be relaxed. I mean, the small, fun, dirty cafe on the beach in Tijuana, in Rosarito, Mexico, that's run well professionally will be full. People will go because people know that they will get a good service, the service they expect and pay for. You open the ice chest and there's Coronas in there. You've got to create that. You need to create that. And if you have toxic people, it's like having bad wait staff or bad chefs or bad managers or bad customers. You got to get away from that. And these are things that masters have to constantly think about and constantly decide who to keep around, who not to keep around. Because keeping around people that aren't going to help you is only going to be like cancer. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. People say, one thing that I think about as a master is popular expression. We say a capoeira group is like a family. But I'm wondering like a better way to say this, like as a master, I tell people capoeira group is like a family, and that's because that's what people want. But as the master, as the person in charge, as the person steering the ship, guiding the ship towards the light of the vision of a good capoeira group, I look at it more like a professional community organization, like a professional sports team that needs to be positive and grow, or people will leave. Nobody wants to play on a losing team. Nobody wants to go to a restaurant that the service gets worse every time you go. You have to know that you're creating a professional community organization, just like a sports team or like a community, like a PTA or anything. If people don't feel like people are involved or doing or growing, they will leave. As a mastery, you need to focus on the well-being of your community all the time. And most of this happens from behind the scenes. Just one or two toxic individuals in your community will go so much against you that I can't even explain. For example, when you create this community, when you create this vision, when you create the people you choose to be at the different levels of the organization, this community, this professional community organization, you've got to cut the toxicity and you've got to validate good people. Old school capoeira, I will say, because of ego, culture, whatever, people never told you you're doing a good job. People never validate you. And this is something that people need. I need to know. I want my students and the people around me to go, thank you. That really helped. And if you have the good people that are not toxic, they will always take that with a lot of love and compassion and be willing to be involved at different things in the future. Here's something that I think I've learned a lot, and this is another point as a master that I think a lot about outside. And when I first started capoeira, it was God, Mestre, us. No discussion, no input, no nothing. This is very old school. Now, I really think, what do my clients, what do my students need? Or what do they want from me? You need to learn to ask and interview clients to learn about what they want you as a service provider to provide to them. As a mastery, what do my students want? What do the parents want? I say that because mostly I always say that, I have a lot of kids. So what can I provide for them? Why? Because at the end of the day, I got to pay the academia. I got to pay my salary. I live from capoeira. What can I do to be a better service provider of what I do? People might not like it and say, oh, you talk about capoeira like it's money only. It's not. But let's grow up and let's remember that money does make the world go round. You need to survive. If I had, $200,000 a year grant, I wouldn't charge. I would just be doing capoeira, but I'd only have 20 students because I wouldn't need more. So the reason I work like this is because this is the situation I've happily created for myself. So you need to listen to your students, get away from ego and listen, ask them. And sometimes you got to use malicia to ask, what do you guys want? Not just what I think is best. Once you are a master, you need to know working harder is not as important as leading smarter. When you first start capoeira, you have to do all the stuff. But as you get older, you realize you can't do all the backflips anymore. You can't run around doing the shows all night. We have this week we have a 30-person samba show, and Mestre Linguista and I have to do the capoeira part. Guys, I'm not going to do backflips, but I am going to motivate and do a good show, but it's a lot of work and it's going to be very energy demanding. I'm just not that young person who can do all that anymore. So I'm learning to lead smarter instead of working harder. If I were to teach 5 more classes a week, I would be less energetic to teach the 16 classes I do now, and the quality would go down. And that would lead to less quality and less good return for me as a capoeira master, as a professional capoeira master. But if I learn to lead smarter, for example, let students, have the opportunity and experience. Sometimes you need to force it on them and test them to see if they want it or not. Because there's a lot of people who say, I don't want the responsibility, but the chance they get it, they get caught by the teaching bug or the helping bug, and they want to do more. But you won't know until they do it. But you got to always check, because you're the one that has the power as a mastery to do this. So you have to make sure you're not forcing it on someone who really doesn't want it. And if you're able to lead smarter, you'll get a lot more benefits. But this generally is because, let's imagine as a master, you've already got a base built. Let's say you have your own capoeira classes, even if you don't have an academia. In my case, academia. But you have your own base. You have maybe students who have been around for at least 5 years. You're growing your group, even if it's only 20, 30 people. You have your base. So you have to think how to lead smarter to grow from there, not how to work smarter. Because as a master, because it takes time to get there, I'm not talking about people who are masters at the age of 20, 25. I'm talking about masters who are past the age of 45. Because it's a big difference when the physical, I don't know any older masters over 45 or my age in their 50s who don't have chronic injuries or chronic pain of something. It's just part of life. So you have to learn to lead smarter. And this is very important. These are things that we think about behind the scenes, right? When you try to solve a lot of the problems by not leading smarter, like leading smarter, one direct thing is you're trying to solve the bigger problems or the bigger challenges to help you take your community and your vision forward versus micromanaging and trying to solve all the little problems. If you solve a big problem, for example, how to organize for a show versus I'm going to teach each person how to do a show. You're working smarter, you're leading smarter, and you're going to get a lot more valuable return on your time investment. Remember, as a mastery, because of the industry, your time and energy are probably the most valuable resource you have. The time and energy are your most valuable resources. Never forget, as a mastery, all roads for other people to becoming a mastery or a master within your community lead through you. You're the person who lays out the roadmap. You're the person who shares the roadmap. You're the person who rewrites the roadmap, redraws the roadmap, re-understands the process so that each time people will constantly always believe in your ability to mentor and help them reach their full potential in capoeira. That's a very big thing as a mastery. People need to believe in you, believing in yourself. You have to lead by example. A good mastery and masters will, a good mastery will lead, a good master will lead, and others will follow you because they see how you're doing. Your leading by example is so crucial. Masteries have to have the ability also to self-check regularly. Every few months on my calendar, I have a day that I take off, like on Monday. And actually today was one of those. It's Monday today, but this will come out on Friday. I take the day off and I reflect. How am I doing? Not only my mental health, my family situation, my financial situation, but how am I doing as a mastery, as a leader, as a mentor? All these things are incredibly important, and students need to know in your community, people in your community to know you are passionately dedicated to what you do. You need to look and go, wow, not only where am I, how am I doing, but how do people perceive I'm doing? This takes us all back to the I can't remember, it's in my head right now. like we sell this non-tangible product, right? I don't sell anything. I sell a feeling. The feeling of capoeira, the art of capoeira, but it's not something you actually hold in your hand. Your community can handle you being negative, but they can't handle you seeming to be tired of capoeira. For example, everyone has a bad day. Everyone has a relationship issue. Capoeira maestros are human. But one thing that I would recommend anyone who becomes a maestro or maestra or a teacher, remember, I've never let people know if you're tired of capoeira. Personally, I've never had that. Every day, I'm more and more in love with capoeira. I'm passionate about what I do. I always mention I chose this as a profession. I didn't get this thrust upon me, or this wasn't my only choice in life. I chose this. Next month, I'll be with Mestre Galego, another person, American, who chose to do capoeira. I'm just speaking about a couple because a lot of people, for example, I've mentioned in Brazil, they do capoeira because it's one of the few avenues for people to have a career. So it's very important to remember that you chose this. Like, people don't like, you can say, wow, sales are down. Wow, it rained and I couldn't do the festival event. But you can never let people know that you're not completely and passionately devoted to capoeira. It's kind of something that people I don't think about, but it's something that I reflect on, that I have to think about because I sense it and I notice it sometimes in other people. Complaining about students, complaining about your situation in capoeira will help you little in return. Because people will assume you're not, half will assume it's about them and half will assume it's about your non-dedication to capoeira, I think. That's just my opinion. I'll leave it at that. These regular reminders help you and your students and your community to keep the vision. You need to, once in a while, you need to represent the vision. I heard a psychological fact that people need to hear something 5 times before they think it's important. That's why education is about repetition. You need to hear it 5 times so you can remember it. I don't know if that's true, but I do understand that sometimes you have to okay, this is why the cordon is important. This is why capoeira is important. This is why the history of capoeira is important. This is why it's important to learn music. This is why it's important to do this, to do that. Because if you don't, then people will not be able to get to the end goal of your vision. You need to take your community forward, but sometimes you need to be able to put it out there. Okay, guys, I'm going to go a little bit more. I know this is a long one, but it's something that I was really reflective on. And I usually don't make podcasts this long, but I'm getting ready to go to the United States, and I'm really reflecting on a lot of things that I really want to know, because I shouldn't be out there supporting and doing if I am not mentally, psychologically, physically, artistically, and professionally ready. As a mestre, I need to trust myself and be able to impart that trust on others. Students, disciples, clients need to know you believe in what you're doing and where you are taking them and this community. Mestres always have to lead by example. My average week is 16 classes a week. Outside of that, I clean, I repair, I prepare, I organize events, practice, create material, write books, create videos, social media, everything else. This is an easy 30 to 40 hours a week that I do outside of my regular capoeira classes. People have asked me how much I charge. Guys, with the yen right now, I charge about $70 a month for the kids, and they can come 6 days a week. That's my main source. So this is part of the process and my ability here. I charge ichiman yen, 10,000 yen. So kids can get the best experience that I can give them. It's led to a lot of students and a lot of work. I do everything else outside of capoeira because it's part of the job I chose. Today's podcast is not complaining. I just wanted to share with you guys a lot of the things I think about, because people are always, when they say the word mastery to me, I have such a profound and compassionate and passionate feeling about what that word means. As a result of my time in capoeira, my dedication, my investment, everything. This is why I get so passionate when I talk about what it is to be a Mestre of Capoeira. One of the hardest things about being a Mestre of Capoeira is that it's very isolating in a way. If you cannot find other people, like I've been lucky enough to find other people who are doing capoeira at the level I'm doing, whether they have 20, 30, 100, 200 students, their general thinking and about how to move forward with capoeira and their communities is very similar to mine. Finding someone in your industry at your general level is really rare, and this helps you a lot. If you are a young master, find other masteries or masters that are thinking the same way as you are to move forward with. Create healthy, vibrant relationships. If you're a contramestre, find mestres and profesores and people and formadas who are on the same path as you. Because if not, the isolation comes because to become a Mestre of Capoeira takes so many years, 2 to 3 decades. And so many people that you thought were going to be around are gone. And you can't look back and you can't say, I miss so-and-so because they didn't have the dedication. It's kind of like you have to be cold to move forward. Like, it's weird, but you got to have some kind of like survivors, like not feeling guilty of being a survivor. I'm still here. Oh, this person quit because of this master quit because of this person quit because of this. That can never be a part of your vocabulary. You just got to keep going. Fortunately, I have really good people and a network. Not a lot. All you need is a handful. I always believe that cockroaches don't like the light. If you're focused, you're positive, if you're moving forward, if you're doing what you do passionately and dedicated and being very dedicated, then good people will come to you. I've got great students, a dozen students, adults who have been with me for almost 20 years. I've got a lot of kids that have been with me for 4 or 5 years whose parents did capoeira. The hardest challenge of being a mestre and what makes the capoeira profession most challenging is the next point and the last point I'm going to talk about. I'm always talking about capoeira as running a capoeira school as a business. At the end of the day, like any business, like let's say you run a food truck or you do anything. The hardest challenge as a master, that if you don't have the resources, it's hard to get people to move forward if you cannot guarantee them a professional income. For example, I cannot guarantee anybody a full-time income. Imagine if I had a good, I'll take Kaidi, one of my great students, 17. If I could offer him a really good pay for his job, even while he's going to college, I could have a dedicated person for 4 years. doing this. But if you cannot guarantee, like in a real business, you pay people. Capoeira, the profession of capoeira is hard because you grow people so they can make money to pay for themselves. You're constantly teaching people how to run a kitchen car or a food truck so they can make their own food truck. The only difficult challenge in capoeira is that it's really hard to have the resources to hire people. It's really challenging. And I guess that's the one thing that's always in the back of my head and the back of my mind, things that I'm trying to do and move forward with. But it's part of life, right? I always talk about, got to run capoeira like a professional business. But if you cannot pay employees, that's the basis of a professional business, because you cannot grow without people helping you. And like I said, today is just a reflective podcast. It's probably the longest one I've made so far, but it's because I'm just so, in love with what I do, the people around me and my community. And speaking from my heart and from my experience and from my professionalism, I feel it's so important that I'm clear and honest with you guys always. At the end of the day, I'm doing the best I can. Lots of love, lots of peace, lots of capoeira. Guys, your Patreon support, as always, makes this possible. Took me 2 hours to write these notes, an hour to record, and it's going to take me another 30 to 40 minutes, another hour, just to edit all the information and get ready for social media, for Patreon launch on Friday, and everything. Guys, thank you always. You mean everything to me. Have a fantastic day. Mestre Sukuri, Mestre Vibes, Tokyo, Japan.